live and ready to go on our end. Thanks.
Thank you. Get everybody else reaching for their pockets and getting there. 7 o'clock, so I will call this meeting of the Westfield, Washington Township Board of Zoning Appeals to order. First item to address is to note the presence of a quorum. Staff?
Ms. Fortier.
Here.
Mr. Hatfield.
Here.
Mr. Schmitz.
Here.
Mr. McCarty.
Here.
Mr. Bowler. We have a quorum.
Thank you. And next is consideration of the minutes from the May 16th, 2023 meeting. We've had the opportunity to review those meetings. They've been distributed. Does anyone have any questions or comments or requests for changes to those minutes? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion on those minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from May 16th, 2023.
Second?
Motion by Janine, seconded by Victor to approve the May 16th, 2023 BZA minutes. All those in favor, voice vote indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Jane, can you please review the rules and procedures for tonight's meeting?
Yes, for all petitions, tonight's meeting has the following structure. The department will summarize the petition and describe what action, if any, is necessary to be taken. Then the petitioner will be given up to 15 minutes to present to the board. The president will open a public hearing, and individuals will be given 3 minutes to speak. Those representing a group will be given 5 minutes to speak. Only one member of a group will be given 5 minutes to speak, and for efficiency purposes, we ask that those representing a group speak first. The public hearing will be closed when all interested members of the audience have had a chance to be heard and all emails received during the meeting have been provided to board members. The petitioner will then have a chance to respond to comments, and the board will follow with any comments, questions, or concerns regarding the petition. Please do not disrupt the proceedings in any way. If you need to have a private discussion, we ask that you please quietly exit the room. Please silence your devices at this time, and if you must answer them, please quietly exit the room. If you are attending in person and wish to speak in regards to a petition scheduled for a public hearing, once the public hearing is opened by the president, then please approach the podium and write your name and address on the sign-in sheet next to Ryan. If you are not attending in person, comments regarding a petition should be emailed to planners@westfield.in.gov with the petition name or number included in the subject line, and those comments will be forwarded to board members and the petitioner. During your comments, please state your name and address into the microphone for the record, and we ask that you not repeat previously stated comments. Your presentation will be timed, and you will be advised when there is approximately 30 seconds remaining. We would like to remind everyone to please speak directly into the microphone so your comments can be put onto the record. Thank you.
Thank you. First items on the agenda are 2306 VS 13, 2306 VU 05, 17728 Sun Park Drive, Direct Repair Collision LLC seeking a variance of use to permit an automotive refurbishing business, and a variance of development standards for the US Highway 31 Overlay District to not be applicable to a property in an EI enclosed industrial district. Weston Rogers is the planner.
And Wes is unfortunately sick tonight, so I'll be doing his intros today.
Okay.
So thank you, President, members of the board. For the record, Dane Crabtree with the Community Development Department. The property this evening for the variance of use is 4.3 acres in size and located at 17728 Sun Park Drive in an enclosed industrial zoning district. The petitioner is here this evening to request a variance of use to permit an automotive refurbishing business and a variance of development standard for the US Highway 31 Overlay District Development Standards exemption to be inapplicable to the property. This item does require a public hearing tonight, and it has been properly noticed and advertised, and staff has received no public comments. Matt Skelton with Churchill and Antrim is present this evening to give a brief presentation. Afterwards, he will be available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Skelton.
Good evening, members of the board. For the record, Matt Skelton with Churchill and Antrim with offices at 116 North Union Street here in town. With me this evening in the audience is Michael Chase and Joseph Rohrman, the owners, operators of the refurbishing business. We are here this evening seeking the board's approval to permit an adaptive reuse of an existing industrial office building located at 17728 Sun Park Drive. The subject property is located in an area that, pardon me, has gradually transitioned over many years from something that is more kind of on an industrial level to something that's more commercial in nature. The building, as the staff report points out, was constructed, the original part of the building was constructed in the late 80s. The building has previously been used for several things, but such as industrial plastic extrusion and packaging company was the Sun Park Packaging that was originally in the building. And then it's also been used for some warehousing purposes. The proposed automotive refurbishing business is really different from a traditional, what I would call a body shop. About 80 or 90% of this business is really cosmetic restoration work for fleet delivery vehicles. So these aren't people just showing up to have service performed. They're the business representatives actually go to the client, pick up their fleet vehicle, bring it to the property, perform work, and then deliver it back to the client. And this is all contained in your materials as well. So that's really not retail in a perfect sense. About 10 to 20% of what they would expect to do on the property may involve some retail clients, but that is a small portion of the business. Just as an example, Amazon is one of their clients. So when they have dings and scratches and they need to make sure their brand stays clean and strong, they refurbish these delivery vehicles. And these are regular vehicles. These aren't the large semis or anything. The business will take place entirely indoors. There's no outdoor storage component of this proposed business. This is not predominantly retail, as I mentioned, and it's much lesser in intensity than, say, a normal retail kind of user. As the staff report concludes, the proposed use at this location is consistent with the comprehensive plan. And we have reviewed the staff report at length. We agree with the proposed findings in support of the approval and also the recommended conditions of approval. Specifically, the staff has recommended that to the extent that these requests are approved, that they be attached to the applicant and not the real estate. We're fine with that. The business will be operated in a manner that is consistent with the statement of intent, and that is a suggested condition of approval, and we're fine with that. And lastly, the business will be conducted entirely within the building. So we're fine with that. That's their business model. So with that, we would request your favorable consideration this evening and are happy to respond to any questions you may have either now or after the hearing.
Matt, one initial question on when you talk about the use that it's not a body shop. By that, you're kind of focusing on the retail element. I mean, it sounds like you're still doing body work. It's just that your customer is not a typical retail drive-in, get an estimate, fix a wreck kind of thing.
Yeah, and there's not a large storage yard component to it. It's different in that respect. Usually in these kinds of shops, you may have something coming in on a truck and it stays there for a while it's in queue. That's not the model here.
Okay. And I note that one of the conditions is that the use will be entirely within the building.
Yes.
And the property itself, if you bounce back to the location map, about 2/3 of the property is outside that building. I don't know what those are those structures at the north end, are those buildings, or are they?
I think there's actually some storage happening there.
Okay.
There's some material, that stuff would all go away.
But you wouldn't, you know, based on what you just said, you know, a typical body shop is going to have wrecked cars stored. Seems like that would be a logical place for that north of the building, but that's not going to happen.
That's not their model. So, and I'm not trying to evade your question. There may be 3 or 4 or 5 vehicles waiting in queue either to be delivered back to a client, but these are all roadworthy vehicles. They're not
Finished.
wrecks. Yeah,
Right,
they don't
restored.
do, it's not a mechanics type of use.
Okay. Anybody else, any questions for the petitioner before I open the public hearing?
In terms of restoring, I mean, do you anticipate doing like painting and spray painting and things like this on these vehicles?
Anything that is cosmetic, so there would be paint, there would be painting, there would be dings and scratches is mostly
The
what they
dings and
work on.
scratches, I don't worry about. I mean, if you're in painting vehicles or large parts of it, you have a fair amount of hazardous materials going someplace, typically in the air. I mean, how's that going to be handled?
And correct me if I'm wrong, is it a booth that you use? Yeah, it's a state regulated paint type of structure enclosure within the building. It's just like Collision Cure has one, I think, over by the daycare, over by Kroger. See? Oh,
Okay.
Go ahead and repeat that.
yeah, that's a state and federally regulated, the actual paint booth, for lack of a better description.
Okay.
And that's contained within the building.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing at 7:11. Do we have anyone who has signed up? No one has signed up. I'm going to give it a minute or so to see. We don't have any electronic communication, but I'll give it a minute or so for any emails. planners@westfield.in.gov if anyone is watching this petition on the internet and wants to make a comment, please do so in the next minute or so.
Just to give a little bit of context, Dave, I have gotten a text from Wes, even though he's not here tonight. He is watching and listening. So he said that he did talk with our director, Kevin Todd, about the scenario you brought up about there being potentially vehicles outside temporarily, but it would be similar to like a Valvoline or a Bell Tire. They would be outside waiting for a customer pickup or something like that. It would not be permanently stored on site. It would be similar to that, and there would be no issue with the use if that were the case.
So you don't have any concerns about the way the condition 4 is drafted, that the use of the property will occur entirely within the existing building on site? That was my only concern, that was worded enough to make sure that that north parking lot is not used per se.
If you wish to update the condition to be the automotive refurbishing business use on the property will occur entirely within the existing building on site, that could be more appropriate, because then the outdoor element would not technically be the refurbishing business or anything like that. So the refurbishing business would be fully contained within the site.
Yeah, but to me, it's maybe Matt can clarify this after the public hearing, but the storage element is more my concern, be it pre-refurbishing or post. In either event, it's not being refurbished at the time. It's just sitting out there.
Correct, and we do have definitions within the UDO on what is defined as temporary and what is not. I don't recall them off the top of my head, but like if it's there for less than 24 hours or something like that, then it's temporary and it can't be considered a part of the use actually happening on. You can't call it outside storage.
And anything outside temporary would be an issue.
Correct.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay, thank you. Any communication come in?
No electronic communication.
I'll close the public hearing at 7:14. Mr. Skelton, did you have anything that you were?
I was feverishly looking for the part of your packet that I think addresses your, that item, because I thought it was in the statement of intent, but I'm not seeing it. But someplace in our materials, we specifically state that there may be, like, I forget what it was, 3 to 5 vehicles in queue, either waiting to go in or waiting to go out, but these are roadworthy vehicles.
Okay.
So you wouldn't be able to distinguish between them in a car parked in a parking lot.
Any members of the board, any questions for the petitioner, comments?
I have one question. I don't really think it applies to this variance of use, but what is to the west that looks like a lot of parking? Is that for the employees, or is that even part of the business?
It's not a part of the current business that we can tell. It mostly is owned by Hiddle Landscaping and has been for quite some time. Yeah, it seems, if you look at historic aerials of this property and the surrounding property, it's really been almost a homogeneous industrial conglomeration of uses since about 1996, so.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I appreciate too that the petitioner is bringing this business and making a good productive use of the building. So I don't want my questions to suggest otherwise. It's just want to clarify exactly the scope of the business so that we know what to expect and what's being permitted. Anything else?
Clarifications on our end. One, are we approving both of them together or making the motion together?
So you would have to do motions for both uses because really the variance of standard is contingent upon the variance of use being approved.
So use needs to be considered first.
Correct.
Okay. What just confused me with that, with the recommended conditions, the and with the VS and the VU. So I just wanted to, are the conditions to be read for both? Is that what that's implying?
Yeah, might as well. I mean, even though
They all deal with use, really, don't they?
yeah,
Because the standard is just the.
Yeah, I think for the standard, maybe you can go ahead and keep the one about the ceasing of the operations on the property, because it talks about the variances. But then, I would say for the variance of use, all 5, for the variance of standard, 2 and 5.
Okay. All right, I will entertain a motion on the use variance, which is the,
One more clarification. Are we updating, what was it, number 4?
no, I think staff, at least from my concern, I think staff understands and seems comfortable with the enforceability of that. If the use of those parking lots is not consistent with the petitioner's statement of intent, then I think you guys are comfortable with straightening that out, right?
Yep.
Okay.
All right, good deal. Just want to make sure I was all good on my end. I'll make a motion to approve 2306-VU-05-17728 Sun Park Drive with the following recommended conditions: that the variance of use shall be tied to the applicant direct repair collision, that if the petitioner ceases operation of the property, the variance associated with this approval shall be annulled, that the use of the property shall remain consistent with the statement of intent as described in Exhibit 3, that the use of the property will occur entirely within the existing building on site, and that the petitioner records acknowledgement of a variance with the Hamilton County Recorder's Office and returns a copy of the recorded instrument to the Community Development Department.
Second.
Motion by Victor, seconded by Janine to approve 2306 VU-05, subject to the staff's 5 recommended conditions in the staff report. Can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Hatfield,
Yes.
Mr. Schmitz,
Yes.
Mr. McCarty,
Yes.
Ms. Fortier.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, and I'll make a motion to adopt staff's findings of fact for the approval of 2306 VU-05.
Second.
Motion by myself, seconded by Janine to adopt staff's findings of fact for 2306 VU-05. Voice vote, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. So now we'll go to a consideration of the standards variance. Do we have a motion?
I'll make, okay, fine. I'll make a motion to approve 2306-VS-13, 17728 Sun Park Drive with the, just to clarify again, you said number 2 and number 5?
Yes.
Okay. With the 2 recommended conditions that if the petitioner ceases operation of the property, that variances associated with the approval shall be annulled, and that the petitioner records acknowledgement of variance with the Hamilton County Recorder's Office and returns a copy of the recorded instrument to the Community Development Department.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion by Victor, seconded by Janine to approve 2306 VS 13, subject to the recommended conditions for approval in the staff report noted as number 2 and number 5. Dane, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Schmitz?
Yes.
Mr. McCarty?
Yes.
Ms. Fortier?
Yes.
Mr. Hatfield?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, and I'll make a motion to adopt staff's findings of fact for the approval of 2306 VS 13, contained in the staff report.
Second?
Motion by myself, seconded by Noble, to approve the findings of fact for 2306 VS 13. Voice vote, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Matter is approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next item on the agenda, 2306 VU 06, 235 Penn Street, Stellhorn Equity LLC, seeking variance of use to permit a low-intensity retail use, a beauty salon, as well as professional office use on the property. And Dane is the planner on this matter.
Good evening, members of the board. Before I begin, I'll go ahead and say that the map that you're seeing right now is actually incorrect. I duplicated the map for this property from the variance last month, and really it should be showing the whole property, not just the area for which the temporary parking lot was approved for last month. So it is the entire property, including the structure, the area north of it. So for the record, Dane Crabtree with the Community Development Department. The item before you this evening is a variance of use request for 235 Penn Street, a 0.3 acre parcel located in the SF3 single-family medium-density district. The petitioner is proposing to permit low-intensity retail use, specifically a beauty salon, as well as a professional office use on the property. The property is located in the downtown area of the comprehensive plan, specifically the Penn Street corridor of the Grand Junction Subdistrict Addendum, which states that appropriate land uses primarily include residential and low-intensity non-residential uses. As detailed in my staff report, there are several recommended conditions of approval regarding restrictions on use, business hours, and residential character of the building if the board is inclined to approve the variance. This item has been properly noticed and advertised, and the department has received no public comments. The petitioner, J.R. Freiberger, is present this evening to give a brief presentation, after which he will be available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Freiberger.
Hello, J.R. Freiberger with Stellhorn Equity. We have local offices here at 705 East Main Street in Westfield. We were here last week, and good to see you all again. Subsequent to last month's meeting, we were approached by, and I know there's discussion about what we're doing to the home and to get VRBO type rental programs in there. Subsequent to that meeting, we were approached by a local realtor that has tenants interested with these specific uses in the space. In our contemplation of that, personally, with some of the discussions we had had with others concerned about what we were doing with the home and the VRBO, in our opinion, those subtle uses are softer and less intensive and less transient, to be honest with you, than the idea of a VRBO. So in our mind, it's a relatively more manageable tenant from our perspective, longer-term tenants, more professional. We've tried to limit the hours to where evenings and weekends are more for personal use for any of the neighbors that have that be of a concern. In discussion with staff, it's clearly contemplated in the comprehensive plan that the low-intensity uses are what long-term the goal of the Penn Street corridor is as part of the subdistrict. So in our opinion, we're just trying to be patient and react to the market and do what we need to do to, after owning it for 16 months, to try and get somebody to rent it and bring $1 in if we can. So it's a reaction to a demand, and we would love to have it be approved and feel like the uses are less intensive and potentially more, less transient, I should say, than a VRBO with potential crowds and late evenings and off hours and who knows what might be going on there. So it's our belief, and we ask for your support in that. So happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the board? One thing, as long as you're there at the mic, the staff report lists 6 recommended conditions. Have you had the chance to review those?
Yes, we have, and we provided a lot of the detail for that by having discussions with the broker and those potential clients.
So you're agreeable to all those conditions?
We are.
Great, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing for this at 7:24. Do we have anyone signed up to speak? Okay. While I'm on that topic, if anyone is planning to speak on any of the later agenda items, please sign in on the clipboard, please, just to save time as we progress.
Jeff Beatty, 216 Penn Street, representing a small group of neighbors here on Penn Street. First, I'd like to read my neighbor at 215 Penn Street's email that he sent to me with his permission to read tonight from Rob Grippentrog. And reading everything through, it appears there's nothing stopping this variance from being presented and approved. The city has things worded as such as it makes most any property along our street open to such low-density commercial usage. I can think of nothing we could say or object about that would cause the board to even pause briefly in its consideration of the variance. They decide to spend time with their kids tonight versus coming here. And my statement is, it's a sad statement when the opinions, ideas of the taxpayers living on Penn Street District appear not to matter.
Does anyone else wish to speak on this matter? Jeff, I guess if you could just clarify, what are those opinions of surrounding owners? We've had no communication regarding this petition.
Well, we met with JR last month, which he took the time to meet with us, which was great, and we really appreciate it. We had concerns about the parking lot, and we hashed those things out. And it became apparent that that would be approved. And we still had concerns at that point. And then we didn't really think that a short period of time later, instead of it being a residence or, you know, a short-term Airbnb, VRBO type rental, it's now going to be a business. I mean, we have issues on Penn Street. We have no drainage on Penn Street. We have a speeding problem. It is routine for people to travel up and down the street at 50, 60 miles an hour in the evening. If you live here on Penn Street, you see a different part. I lived in the other big neighborhoods. When we moved down here, you see something different. And, you know, most of the investment down here on Penn Street in the district has been houses. I mean, it's been single-family residential. From our house to the 3 houses behind us, the 2 houses on East Street, the bulk of the investment has been residential, not business. And that changed from when they did the study in 2016. Most of that investment happened after that on the residential end.
I guess one follow-up question I'd have for you is it appears to me that with the conditions, the intent is to keep the building residential in character and have relatively low intensity uses that would have, I would think, a pretty minimal impact on residential users nearby. Do you perceive that differently?
We have a continual parking problem on the street because we have overflow parking coming from 32. We have concerns on this street about the traffic increasing with the impending construction on State Road 32. I mean, you know, as a property owner on Penn Street, I appreciate everything JR is doing to fix the house up. It looks better now than it did. we still have a boarded up house on the street that's been that way for some time. So, you know, I think when you live here, you see a different part of this. And it's not all business. You know, when I sat down with JR and Andy, one of the things that Andy said to me, well, it's mostly business on this street. No, it's mostly residential still. There's way more residents that live on this street than there are businesses.
Thank you. I will go ahead and close public hearing at 7:30. I assume we got no more electronic communication?
No electronic communication.
Okay, JR, response to the public testimony, please.
I guess I'd be happy to. I think, and I appreciate all Jeff's comments and all the neighbors' comments. We've tried to listen and meet and be understanding, and I feel we have been. It's my opinion, just in hearing a lot of that, I'm not sure there's the understanding of the long-term comprehensive plan of what already is the intent potentially of that area and the uses in that area, and I think there's a potential conflict in that with what their personal use and motivations are versus what maybe the city's long-term vision is. I don't know that I'm the referee of that here tonight or that I can be, but two things I would comment on. Do you have the pictures by chance, Dane?
You can put that in the flash drive
Up here?
there. Yeah, there should be a flash drive area. And then Ryan, you'll have to. And then do the.
Photos, go to the photos first.
Yeah, but.
Just, we're about done with the outside, but just in reference to trying to keep this building in keeping with the residential character of the neighborhood. We're not trying to put a retail building here. We're not trying to make it be a over obnoxious, intensive retail use. There will be nothing more than what those visions are. This right here, and you can go to that over at screenshot. This is my review of driving the street and watching and seeing current businesses in use and any properties that are titled in a corporate name. And I think you see that the majority along Penn Street in corporate names may not mean that people don't live there, but if they're owned corporately, most likely they're rentals or more transient use rental properties than they are single family homes. So it's certainly a representation that there's a lot going on Penn Street, and I think I understand the concerns, and we're trying to be as good a neighbors as we can be. But if the long-term comprehensive plan is part of what the city's objective is to meet, I feel we're walking in that direction and trying to do it as professionally and as peacefully as we can.
Any questions from the board for the petitioner?
Not necessarily a question, just observation that, yes, I do agree that standing out here around election time and other periods of time, that people fly down here, and it's ridiculous. It's crazy. So I don't know what we can do to help to necessarily help that in the future. But just speaking upon precedent of what's been set, with this specific use, we have hairdresser here just next door, and a few others in the area as well, including the building that you own currently as well. So that's where my mind goes, just with this specific use, because of the precedent being set, it's already kind of set in motion. So, and I appreciate, again, the work that you've done to the house.
Anyone else? I'll circle back to you just before I forget. To me, the comprehensive plan speaks to having a healthy mix of commercial, offices, retail, residential in this area. So it's not foreign to have businesses intermixed with residential. And I guess I see the investment in the property and being set aside for some relatively low intensity uses. And our job is the scope of this board is not traffic, is not speeding, it's simply on the use and whether that's acceptable in this location. So Well, I appreciate Jeff representing himself and his family and his neighbors, and hearing from them. I guess that's my response, and I'm interested in anything that Noble, Janine, anything you have to chime in as well.
Well, basically, I agree with Dave that the city has put a plan in that this is a healthy mix of residential and commercial uses. That being said, the parking lot is behind it is already set forth for parking for other areas or other buildings there that you own. I just, as long as it keeps a residential look and it doesn't, you know, and if it were to be sold, I would say it probably needs to revert to a residential use, as we've done in several other commercial settings in a residential area. So I would probably limit it to that, but overall, the plan is set forth that this type of use is permitted in the future of Westfield, and I don't have a problem with it, especially considering the fact that you spent a lot of money upgrading it, and it is a very low impact use. How much of the area is set for the hair salon?
Small area, basically what used to be the garage area, so it's.
Okay, so the other part would be
The other part.
a professional use, and that's limited parking, limited traffic issues. Would parking be generally projected to be behind the building in that lot that we allowed to be gravel coated?
Yeah, the driveway in front allows for some for the salon. Our hope is that the salon has that specifically for off-street parking directly in front of it. And then the discussion would be for the 3 or 4 offices, we would allow them to use the parking lot behind and try and minimize street traffic or street parking. So it's already a problem. That's why we got the permission for the parking lot. It's already a problem, so.
It's unfortunate that with 32 the way it is, I mean, Penn Street's become the main east-west cross street, and that doesn't have any, we don't have any control over that here. That's something that you need to deal with either the police department or the Department of Public Works, I would guess. So, but I think it's a use that's been contemplated by the city when this overlay was adopted, and that's kind of where I'm on with the project.
And Noble, just a FYI, since the property is zoned SF3, and this would simply be a variance of use on top of that, this could be sold and returned to a residence by right. So there would be no need for a condition of that.
Okay.
But that subsequent owner would also have the right to maintain a beauty
They could,
salon and
based on
residential by
this
the same
use,
token.
correct. Yeah.
And it doesn't sunset with the change of ownership, as
Correct.
we did with the prior petition. So if you wanted it to, then tie it to petitioner only, that would be something else
Well,
for
I mean,
consideration.
the change of use is the main key, as long as it stays as permitted here with the recommendations. I don't have any real objections.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'll entertain a motion from anyone on the board.
I usually read the long ones, so I guess I will. Make a motion to approve 2306-VU-06-235 Penn Street with the following recommended conditions. The proposed professional office use shall be limited to an insurance, real estate, accounting, or counseling office, or a substantially similar use as determined by the Director of Community Development. The proposed low-intensity retail use shall be limited to a beauty salon. Business hours professional office use shall be limited to 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Tuesday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. on Saturday, and no hours of operation on Sunday. Business hours for beauty salon use shall be limited to 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Saturday, and 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Sunday. The existing primary structure on the property and/or any additional improvements to said primary structure must remain residential in character as determined by the Director of the Community Development Department, and the petitioner record in acknowledgement of this approval with the Hamilton County Recorder's Office, returning a copy of recorded instrument to the Community Development Department.
Second.
Motion by Victor, seconded by Janine to approve 2306 VU06, subject to the 6 recommended conditions in the staff report. Jane, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Schmitz?
Yes.
Mr. McCarty?
Yes.
Ms. Fortier?
Yes.
Mr. Hatfield?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. And I will make a motion to adopt staff's findings of fact for the approval of this petition.
And I'll second.
Motion by myself, seconded by Janine, to adopt staff's findings of fact for the approval of this petition 2306 VU06. All those in favor, voice vote indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Matters approved. Now move to the pool location segment of tonight's program. Pool location variances. 2306 VS 10, 15383 Whistling Lane. Dennis and Christy Murphy seeking a variance of development standard to encroach 11 feet into the 35-foot rear yard setback in Bridgewater PUD to accommodate a swimming pool and deck. And Dane is the planner.
Good evening, members of the board. For the record, Dane Crabtree with the Community Development Department. The item before you this evening is a variance of development standard request to encroach 11 feet into the 35-foot minimum rear yard setback. So a swimming pool and deck may be built at 15383 Whistling Lane, which is a 0.66 acre lot located in the Bridgewater Club subdivision of the Bridgewater PUD. This item has been properly noticed and advertised. The department has received no comments. As noted in Exhibit 4, this item has been approved by the Bridgewater HOA. Aaron Stump and Robin Hines of Custom Living USA, I believe, are present virtually. They don't plan to make a presentation, but are available if there are questions. Thank you.
So no petitioner presentation?
Not that I'm aware of.
My name is Gary Vance. I'm on the Homeowner Association and of Bridgewater and Chair of the Architectural Review Committee. So here to answer any questions. And Aaron and Robin are here in person.
Okay.
Along with the homeowner, Christy Murphy.
Okay, and your organization has approved to the extent you are concerned, it's been approved.
It has been approved.
Okay, great. I'm going to go ahead and open a public hearing at 7:42. Do we have anyone who signed up?
Yeah, unless you have anything further to say.
Signed up to speak if you have questions.
All right, and then did you have anything else to add now that the public hearing is open?
I would like to add one thing. Can you go to the site plan, Dean?
Yeah, it's right here.
I'm sorry, the aerial.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, that shows it, kind of representing future swimming pools that might be applied for a variance at Bridgewater. We pretty much are approving those at our homeowner association, master association, when there is a pond or a water between the home and the course. And so in this case, the home has that. So it adds an extra buffer and barrier. And there are some instances where a golf cart path is close to that point, and generally we are not approving those. And so this falls into the criteria of that extra space that's between the golf course and the home, the rear property line.
So then on the opposite side of Whistling, it'd be a no-go because of the cart and.
Yeah, unless of course they met the setback.
Okay.
But,
As far as if they needed a setback variance, your organization would be opposed to it under those circumstances.
under those circumstances, yes.
And every hole is labeled East 161st Street.
I noticed that.
How about that?
That's interesting, didn't notice that. You need to get your arrow updated, Dane. Yeah.
Anything else to add?
No, just if you have any questions, happy to answer those.
Okay. I think, let's see, I opened the public hearing. No communication, I presume?
No, we do not.
I'll close the public hearing at 7:44. Any questions for the HOA representative, I guess, or the petitioner online? So if we have any questions.
And petitioners.
Oh, they're here?
If you wish.
Actually, since you're here, I'm pulling you up. Need one of you to come up. If you'll state your name and address for the public record, please.
My name's Erin Stump, and I'm with Custom Living.
Okay, Aaron. So you're the company that's installing the improvements?
We are the overall contractor for the project. Pools of
Okay.
Fun will be installing the actual pool.
Okay. The only reason I brought you up is that the staff has a couple recommended conditions, and the first of which is that the property be developed in substantial compliance with that site plan that's been submitted. So just make sure the owners know, and that those of you involved in the construction, if there are any changes, those need to be brought to the attention of the staff to see if anything needs to be done to amend anything done by this board, because we would be, if the matter is approved, it's going to be conditioned on that plan. Make
Understood.
sense?
Understood.
Any other questions? If not, did I close the public hearing? Okay. Then I will entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve 2306 VS 10 at 15383 Whistling Lane. There are two conditions that are recommended: that the property be developed in substantial compliance with the site plan Exhibit 3, and that the petitioner shall record an acknowledgement of this approval with the county recorder's office and return a copy of the recorded instrument to the Community Development Department.
I second.
Motion by Janine, seconded by Noble, to approve 2306 VS 10, subject to the two conditions in the staff report. Dane, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. McCarty?
Yes.
Ms. Fortier?
Yes.
Mr. Hatfield?
Yes.
Mr. Schmitz?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, and I'll make a motion to adopt staff's findings of fact for the approval of this petition.
Second?
Motion by myself, seconded by Janine, to adopt staff's findings of fact for the approval of 2306 VS 10. Voice vote, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Chair, Mr. Schmidt, may I ask one question? What is the recorded instrument that you need to have?
That is something that the staff will actually send to the homeowner, and it'll be signed by our director, and then they will have to sign it and as well and have it notarized at the recorder's office in Noblesville, and just have it recorded. It'll be tied to the property, so.
Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah, we won't hold up a building permit or whatever, but this just eventually would need to be done.
It's important to do because then subsequent owners will, when they do a title search upon sale, then they see that variance of record. So it's just a better way to historically zoning stuff's not recorded, but recording this is helpful because then people are aware of it going forward.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, 2306 VS 11, 15326 Holcomb Drive, Family Leisure on behalf of Jim and Jill Fennell, seeking a variance to encroach 8 feet into the 20-foot minimum rear yard setback to accommodate a swimming pool in the Harmony PUD district. Staff reviewer is Ryan.
Thank you, President, members of the board. For the record, Ryan Collingwood with the Community Development Department. The subject property is about 1.6 acres in size and is located at 15326 Holcomb Drive within the 0.16, acres in size and located at 15326 Holcomb Drive within the Harmony PUD district. The petitioner requests a variance of development standard to encroach 8 feet into the 20-foot minimum rear yard setback to accommodate the installation of a swimming pool. This item does require a public hearing tonight, which has been properly noticed and advertised. Staff has received 5 comments related to the petition. Because of this, a public comment packet has been compiled, and I have distributed the packet to all members of the BZA. The petitioners are here this evening. They are available to answer any questions, as am I, should you have any for staff. Thank you.
Thank you. Petitioner? Presentation from the petitioner? Someone here?
Or Jim? Yeah, Jim and Jill.
Do you wish to make a presentation on your behalf? I would suggest it would be a good idea. We have several comments that are in opposition, so we act upon testimony to support certain elements. So if there's negative stuff, you would want to have some testimony on your own.
Thank you very much, Board, for allowing me to address you this evening. I'm the owner, James Fennel, 15326 Holcomb Drive. My contractor, Family Leisure, was supposed to be on the phone.
Nick, are you on the call?
Yes, I'm here.
I would prefer, Nick has prepared this.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you, Nick.
Okay, good.
Yeah, the homeowner would like you to make a brief presentation, if you don't mind.
Okay. Well, yeah, basically just looking to encroach within, well, I believe the setback there is 20 feet. Just looking to encroach into that, the 8 feet, so it's only the 12 feet from the setback as opposed to the 20.
Is there opportunity, Nick, to, one of the findings is that we have to find is that the strict application of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property. Well, you have the right to have a swimming pool. The question before this board is not whether a swimming pool is appropriate. That is permitted. The issue comes down to location. So is it possible to build the improvements that the Fennels would like to have without that encroachment?
Looking at the plans, I mean, we would have to reduce, well, I mean, if you look, the existing patio is there. We are meeting the required 4 feet of sidewalk or decking, I should say, on each side of the pool there. So, I mean, unless getting rid of any of that existing patio is a consideration, which I don't think the homeowners would want to do. Yeah, it looks like we're gonna, in order to have that minimum 4 feet, or I'm sorry, yeah, 4 feet of concrete deck around the edge, then yeah, we'll probably have to get into that setback a little bit.
Okay, thank you. Anything else to add prior to the public hearing?
Based on the comments that I've had from neighbors, and I got those late in the process, yeah, there's a feeling that people believe their neighbors, they like us, we like them, but people believe that if this is granted for us, then this will carry on to other people requesting variances. If I were asking you for a addition to my home, blocking the view of the pond, I would expect you to say no. This is basically a large patio with a hole in the middle. It's because swimming pools are permanent structure. That's my belief, is that's why you have to review the variance and either grant or deny the variance.
Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and open a public hearing at 7:52. And we have written testimony from a number of neighbors. Does anyone in the audience wish to speak to this petition? Or anyone electronically for that? We'll let you, if you want to have a seat, then you'll have an opportunity to respond to anything that's said.
We have no electronic communication at this time.
Okay. And have all these electronic things, the packet that we were given tonight, have those been provided to the petitioner?
Yes.
Okay. And then, has anyone signed up?
No signups.
Okay. And no one is here that wishes to speak to this petition? Okay. want to take a little bit more time during the public hearing to review these, since some of them are kind of long.
This is Nick again with Family Leisure.
Yeah, Nick.
I also did want to point out that the homeowners HOA had already approved the plans for the pool as well. I know that's part of I believe, the information in the packet, but I just wanted to make sure that was known.
Thank
We
you.
got it.
Yeah,
It's
I was-
actually on the screen right now.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that to confirm, because the indication was from one of the public comments.
Yeah, from
that-
several of the public comments that I saw, a lot of them mentioned something about needing to be this should have been brought through the HOA first, which it was.
Okay, thank you. Everyone read, and just a slow reader, me was the holdup. I'm on closed public hearing at 7:57. And I don't know, Mr. Fennell or Nick, that there's any, since other than what you've been provided, we act upon, we need evidence in the record that the approval will not be injurious to public health, safety, morals, and general welfare. Number two, that the use and value of the land of the area adjacent to the property, including the variance, will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. And finally, strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties with the use of the subject property. Now, those standards are what we look to with every petition, at least for this type of a standards variance. And in reviewing the testimony or the letters from public, they don't seem to be, to me, establishing anything related to general welfare, injurious to public health, safety, nothing about property values in a substantially adverse manner. Some mention, however, on the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance and that there is no practical alternative to this plan, and that's why I asked that question before. But it appears a lot of the focus is on the Architectural Review Board, which has approved it for whatever standards they apply. That's their business. That's not our concern anyway. However, those other standards are, and at least in my reading of it, and I'm opening up to the board, I don't see anything right on point on those findings. Others?
No, I agree with your observation on that, and in reading the comments, one that stuck out to me is out of the 700 homes in Harmony, there's only one neighbor that has built a pool so far. So I wanted to see that on the map. And it looks like they're all the way in the bottom corner, closest to the apartments and where Bigby and all that is. So they're a little bit more secluded, and it looks like the pool pretty much fits smack dab in the middle of their property. So with this one, two things that were big for me was, one, what is going into the encroachment itself? Is it hazardous, whatever like that? And to me, it looks like it's mainly just the concrete slabs itself. So again, by right, you have the right to build the pool. It's just the concrete that's bringing you here tonight. And then reading those comments, I was concerned with having the first approval with the HOA. So upon seeing the approval with the HOA, I was like, okay, well, if Harmony's okay with it, then I should be okay with it too. So, thank you.
How much slope are we talking about from where the existing patio is down to the water? Is it significant?
From the house to the water's edge?
Yes.
No, I mean, as things stand now or when everything's built?
Well, when it's what it is now, because one of the comments from the remonstrators was the fact that there will be a knee wall that will be built and be some rocks and some other stuff.
I mean, it'll have to be, I mean, obviously, because you can tell by some of the pictures of the property, there's a bit of a bank down to the pond. So yeah, everything will be graded out and leveled up to the edge of the concrete base there. But if you're talking about from the home to the pool, the existing patio,
Yes.
yeah, I mean, that will all be level.
Yes, I understand it will be level, but what's the slope now? Is it significant?
Let me look. I don't think I have the exact grade on that.
Will cause any drainage issues?
You've got a 10-foot drainage easement along the west side of the property, so
Right.
presumably
Right.
you've got a drop in the last 10 feet, but the
Right.
pool's outside that.
Yeah, I don't know the specific, the grade of drop.
And there's no chance of using the existing patio as part of the sidewalk, concrete sidewalk there, and move it up a couple feet?
That would cause, I mean, I guess that would be up to the homeowner if that's the direction they wanted to go with the design. I mean, because I guess we could, because if you see there's that 3-foot section from the existing to the water's edge. I mean, even if reducing that, we would still be slightly into the setback.
Well, you'd
So
be
you
into
say
the
the-
setback,
the-
instead of 6 feet, maybe,
Right,
or 6 feet instead of 8, so.
correct.
Something just to bring up of note, looking at the GIS, the Google map, something that you can't see on the rendering, you can't see in this map because you're not able to get as close. Where it's labeled existing patio, there is a roof over that currently. So that kind of interferes with tying the pool into the existing patio. So I would agree with you otherwise if it was just a blank slab, but they do have a roof and furnishing over it, so.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Anyone else?
I think the letters of remonstrance would have been a little more weighty if they would have put their addresses on it. None of these people tell us how close they live.
It's actually has been provided
It has?
in the written comments. If you look at I think staff has noted.
Okay, thank you.
3 of the 5 or 3 of the.
Right, the first 3.
Correct, yeah, so 2 of the remonstrance letters we received were by anonymous residents.
Yes.
And then 3 of them are denotated on, inside the packet that I compiled,
Okay,
Yeah.
on the context map.
So, yeah, looking at the context map that was provided, the 1, 2, 3, they're across the pond where Ryan's showing the mouse right now. So, again, if it was next door neighbors, like specifically the ones to the south, because their backyards would be looking out to the pool, I think that would be a little bit of a heftier remonstrance, but you're all the way across the pond. So I don't know how that's necessarily affecting your day-to-day livelihood, so.
Well, and the opportunity was there both at this hearing and through written communication to provide some testimony that that would support their position in a way that we could act upon it. It's, you know, it's purely, the issue is purely the location, is by that pool being located 8 feet, does it create these problems of health, safety, welfare, and strict adherence. I think the practical difficulties issue, I think, is established by the pool as proposed is not possible within that lot, practically speaking. And the other ones are the other standards are pretty straightforward. That they've been met, and there's no testimony to the alternative. Anyone else? If there's any other questions or comments, I'll welcome them. Otherwise, I'll entertain a petition on this, or I mean, a motion on this matter.
I make a motion to approve petition number 2306-VS-11 at 15326 Holcomb Drive, subject to the following conditions: that the property be developed in substantial compliance with the site plan, Exhibit 3, and that the petitioner recorded an acknowledgement of this approval with the Hamilton County Recorder's Office and return a copy of the recorded instrument to the Community Development Department.
Before I proceed with that, Noble, your motion reminded me that I never checked with the petitioner to make sure he was aware of the proposed conditions, and that as Noble's motion is made, it's made subject to that particular plan. So to the extent you would make any changes to that plan, then none of this approval would be in place. So just make sure, should anything change, that you get with Dane, or no, in this case, Ryan, to discuss any changes.
Clearly understand. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion by Noble, seconded by Victor, to approve 2306 VS11, subject to the 2 conditions contained in the staff report. Can you call the roll, please, Dane?
Ms. Fortier?
yes.
Mr. Hatfield?
Yes.
Mr. Schmitz?
Yes.
Mr. McCarty?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. I'll make a motion to adopt staff's findings of fact for the approval of this petition.
Second,
Motion by myself, seconded by Janine, to adopt staff's findings of fact for the approval of 2306 VS11. Voice vote. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Matters approved. Next item on the agenda is 2306 VS12, the east side of Fremont Moore Road, quarter mile south of 206th Street, Stephen Bell Jr., represented by Andy Word of Churchill and Antrim, seeking to modify the minimum lot frontage standards for the development of 2 individual residential lots on 10.883 acres in an AGSF1 district. And Dane, are you doing this one as well?
I am. Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. For the record, Dane Crabtree, the Community Development Department. The property for this development standard is on the east side of Fremont Moore Road, approximately a quarter mile south of East 206th Street, zoned AGSF1 agriculture single-family rural. The petitioner requests a variance of development standard to modify the minimum lot frontage standards for the development of 2 individual residential lots on 10.83 acres of land. This item does require a public hearing tonight. It has been properly noticed and advertised, and staff has received no public comments. Matt Skelton from Church Hill Antrim is present this evening to give a brief presentation, after which he will be available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Skelton.
Good evening again, Board. Thank you for your consideration this evening. Matt Skelton with Church Hill Antrim with offices at 116 North Union Street here in town. With me this evening is the owner of the real estate, Dr. Stephen Michael Bell. And the gentleman beside him is Wade Bertrand, his brother-in-law. We are here this evening seeking the board's approval of a variance of road frontage to accommodate a 2-lot subdivision on a 10.83 acre parcel. Dr. Bell intends to build his new home towards the east portion of the property. His sister and brother-in-law intend to build their new home on what is shown here as Lot 2. The planned configuration is shown here. I think that's a suggested condition of your approval consideration this evening. Both lots meet or exceed the 3-acre minimum lot size requirement and are comparable to other lots in the vicinity. We have reviewed the staff report, agree with the proposed findings in support of the approval, and also the recommended conditions of approval, and those are acceptable to the petitioner. We would ask for your favorable consideration this evening and are happy to respond to questions if you have any. Thank you.
Thank you. So it's basically, and I presume you need this for an administrative plat to proceed with the platting process?
Correct.
Okay. So we've got Lot 2 is a 3-acre AGSF1 compliant lot. And then the issue is the 7.42 Lot 1 is not compliant simply because of the frontage issue, right?
Correct.
And that's why we're here.
Yep.
Okay, thanks. I will open the public hearing at 8:12. Anyone on the list?
We do. Julia Hoskins, I believe, it says.
Julia Hoskins, 18384 Joliet Road. I don't live on Fremont Moore Road. I live west of that. My fear is that if you forgive 200 feet of a road frontage on a 250-foot required, it's going to open up a whole bunch of people wanting to do this. Land in this area, Fremont Moore Road and west, is hard to find. Land is going for $35,000 to $50,000 an acre. So all of the lots that are existing now with the 250-foot road frontage with 6 or more acres could actually start selling the back of their property for $50,000 an acre. And then we just have a bunch of houses stacked in an area that was single-family, rural residential, 250-foot road frontage. I fear that it would just set a precedent and that everybody could do that. They're not asking forgiveness for a small portion, they're asking 200 foot of it. The area where I live at, we all have 250-foot road frontage, and we all have, most everyone has 10 acres. And we could go in and sell our back 5 and be $250,000 richer, but then we just have everybody stacked, and then you become up with drainage issues and all of those things. So I understand what they're trying to do, but I fear that it's just going to open floodgates for everybody to try to sell the back of their tin because they all have the 250 road frontage. I just think it would be a bad thing to start in this area because it would just expand all over the place. And in that area, I don't know that there's any homes that have homes stacked behind each other like that. Most of them are facing a road. So when I saw that comment on the request, I don't see any of that there. Just my thoughts. I just didn't want to set a precedent and everybody start trying to sell their back lot.
Thank you. Anyone else on the list?
No.
Any electronic communication? Okay, I will close the public hearing at 8:14. Mr. Skelton, any response to Ms. Hoskins' comments?
Yes, sure. I mean, thank you. I think the board members are already privy to this, but there's no such thing as a precedent being set by a variance approval. So there's no legal precedent being set. There may be some common practices of the board, but by no means are you required to follow a previous consideration of a similar item. Secondly, I would suggest to you that the drainage issue that was mentioned it's kind of like baked into your plating process. You really can't get through a plating process without having to plan for drainage control. It's a legal requirement.
Even with administrative plats, you get into that as well?
Yeah, this is, even minor subdivision plats such as this would go to our technical advisory committee and be reviewed by Public Works and the county surveyor if it's not in the city limits, yes.
So would it be in that kind of a set situation, is it common for the county surveyor to, in an area where, and I don't know about this area, where if there's surface water problems, that they might require retention and something for water retention?
For something of this magnitude where there are only 2 lots on 10 acres, very, very rarely.
Sure.
Usually the Public Works Department would require perimeter drainage easement around the entire property. And then the county surveyor may suggest certain elevations where
grading.
the grade would be better or something like that. But no, usually the county surveyor only gets involved if there's a legal drain nearby that needs to be, or an old tile that needs to get reconstructed or something like that.
But they're certainly going to review it in the context to see that it affects overall drainage in the area.
Yeah.
As far as your findings go, as I pointed out in my presentation, what's being done here, actually from an aesthetic perspective, is probably a less dense appearing type of development than if there were to be side-by-side homes. So I would suggest that this is probably a better course than trying to divide up multiple thinner, skinnier lots along the road, each with their own frontage.
You mean like splitting the lot down the middle?
Yes.
Yeah, and then you'd need variances for both lots essentially, and
From a lot size and just kind of the rhythm of this area. I mean, this is very comparable to other homes that have been developed in the vicinity. It appears on your aerial photograph.
do you have anything else?
That's
I
it.
have a question. From a staff consideration point, is there anything I know I've seen in some areas where there's a desire to not have flag lots and not have this scenario, either as a policy or I guess really when I've seen it's been more as a policy situation. Anything that we have that opposes this setup? Because I understand petitioner's point. I'm sorry, not petitioner's point, but Ms. Hassan's point. Do we have anything in the comp plan or anything that addresses that issue?
There's nothing to my knowledge in the UDO or the comprehensive plan that would suggest this, provided it remains rural in nature, which, obviously is up to anyone's perspective on what is rural in nature. So I would point out that across the street on Fremont Moore, you can see to the south there that this already has occurred and been approved by this board, I believe late last year or earlier this year, something similar. So you're still maintaining a 3-acre agricultural, I think that's typically what we've seen is people trying to maintain 3-acre in size lots and then being able to utilize usually a rear portion of a property, as the Ms. Hoskins stated. That is usually what we see. There's nothing in the UDO or the comprehensive plan that would necessarily suggest this is a bad practice or anything, though.
Okay, thank you. That was my question.
And I agree, and I see your point as well, because having lived in this vicinity pretty much all my life, I want to keep the character that we have out there. up to interpretation, rural in nature and so forth. But I have that same concern as well. Where I see the differential is, as was noted for across the street, and we had one, I believe it was at our previous meeting, and we've had a few in the past where these, not estate lots, but estate lots for lack of a better term, or I would just say families, wanting to move out of neighborhoods or so on and so forth, and be able to have lots in close proximity with immediate family. So I think in that regard, I support that, because I think that's great for just country living in general, and for future families and so forth. Where I would have the problem would be if there was some corporate conglomerate, whatever it was, that was wanting to buy up individual lots and then do these flag lots here or there. That would be messing with the overall nature out here. So we address every petition by itself, as was mentioned. It's not necessarily the precedent that's been set, because each one has its own unique scenario. But with this one that's in front of us, again, basing on the fact that it is for 2 family lots, it's not for a rental, it's not for building and then selling, whatever it is. That's where I'm okay with the use of it then, so.
I mean, to note, there would be nothing against the petitioner to sell it to a non-family member.
True,
Just
true,
FYI.
yes, yeah.
Yeah, and there's nothing that, I mean, that's their intention. I certainly believe that that's the case, but we can't base our decision on that because we're not making contingent upon that. No.
If they didn't have the access to Fremont Moore Road, could they build a house back there on the proposed Lot 1 with an easement on the front porch?
No, they would need 250 feet of road frontage by right to build a lot on it.
Okay.
So as it exists, as this lot exists today, one house may go on it.
Okay, thank you.
Without a variance, yes. Thank you. Yeah, but then they would have 2 lots without road frontage.
Anything else? We've opened and closed public hearing, right? Yep. Okay, any other questions, comments for the board? Otherwise, I'll consider a motion on this matter.
I'll make a motion to approve, 2306 VS 12, Fremont Moore Road, 1/4 mile south of East 206th Street, with the recommended conditions of approval. Therefore, that the petitioner shall record an acknowledgement of this approval with the Hamilton County Recorder's Office and return a copy of the recorded instrument to the Community Development Department. Number 2, that the site be developed in a substantial compliance with Exhibit 3. Number 3, that the petitioner shall file a secondary plat application to the Community Development Department for review, comment, and approval. Number 4, and finally, that the petitioner shall record the approved secondary plat with the Hamilton County Recorder's Office and return a digital copy of the recorded plat, to the Community Development Department.
Second.
Motion by Janine, seconded by Victor, to approve 2306 VS 12, subject to the 4 conditions, recommended conditions in the staff report. Dan, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Hatfield?
Yes.
Mr. Schmitz?
Yes.
Mr. McCarty?
Yes.
Ms. Fortier?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. I'll make a motion to adopt staff's findings of fact for the approval of 2306 VS 12.
Second?
Motion by myself, seconded by Ms. Fortier, to adopt staff's findings of fact for the approval of this petition. Voice vote. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Matter is approved. Thank you very much, Board. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, 2306 VS 14, 14933 Thatcher Lane. Sam Plusters, CBRE Group, Inc., represented by Robert Sullivan, seeking a variance of development standard to encroach 15 feet into a 45-foot minimum side yard setback in the US 31 overlay district in an SBPD district, zoning district. And Lauren is our planner.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. President. For the record, Lauren Gillingham with the Community Development Department. The subject property is just under 1 acre in size and is located at 14933 Thatcher Lane within the Village Park Plaza subdivision, zoned SBPD and 31 Overlay District. So presently, the site is a Burger King. The request would be to accommodate a new demo rebuild of a Bank of America branch. The petitioner requests the variance of development standards to encroach 15 feet into the 45-foot minimum side yard setback as required by the 31 Overlay District in both side yards, north and south. The item does require a public hearing tonight, which has been properly noticed and advertised. Staff has received no public comments related to the petition. Sam Klooster with CBRE is present virtually, but was not planning on making a presentation. We're both happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. In the absence of petition, I will go ahead and open the public hearing at 8:26. Nothing on the clipboard, I presume?
You are.
Okay, we'll wait a minute or two and see if we get any comments.
Could I make a comment? I'm Rob Sullivan with Nelco Architecture.
Yeah, go ahead, Rob.
Architect on this project.
Go ahead, Rob. Thank you.
I just wanted to clarify that on the north. Thank you. Can you hear me? I might have a bit of a delay. I apologize.
Yeah, we hear you fine. Go ahead.
On the north side. Thank you. On the north side of the plan we're looking at right now is where we're looking for the plus or minus 15-foot encroachment. It looks like we're actually dimensioned out to 30'5". But on the south side, we're just over 43 feet. So that would only be like a 2-foot encroachment. I just wanted to clarify, we're not asking for 15 feet on both sides.
Great, thank you. And is that a drive-through on the north side?
Yes.
Thank you. Please.
So since this site is not engineered out yet, and that drive-through on the north looks a little narrow for a fire truck, the 15-foot request was added to both sides to kind of allow the building to shift north or south and not have to come back for variance.
I got you.
So that's why
Okay.
there's a discrepancy there.
Okay.
And are these encroachments better than what Burger King is today?
Right, I have the exact numbers in my staff report, but Burger King is definitely, has a greater encroachment currently. This would be a net reduction, or increase, I guess, in side yard setback.
I also like to eat at that Burger King.
Oh.
I'm disappointed.
I opened a public hearing, didn't I? Then I'm going to close it at 8:28. Any questions or comments from the board? Sounds like to me if we have less impact from a setback by the proposed plan compared to what's there now, and what's there now has been fine, I wouldn't have any objections to this. Anyone else care to chime in?
Yeah, I've got no issues with it, just share the disappointment of the change. And then just one clarification for the future. I'm assuming that we'll see the renderings at APC in the future for consent. Okay. I'm just trying to think of when to break it to the public.
Yes, we will have renderings.
If there are any questions, raise them now. Otherwise, I will welcome a motion on this petition.
Are there no recommendations for approval on this?
Conditions?
Since the site plan is not engineered, I wouldn't recommend doing any sort of compliance with the site plan itself.
Sure.
Thank you.
And then there's no, but you don't care about recording it or anything?
A recordation does not inherently, is not necessary for a variance to be approved. It's just,
No.
like you said, best management practice earlier, just for the chain of title purposes. I don't think it needs to be a recommended condition. It's just
Okay.
kind of been that way.
If you're happy, I'm happy. Motion.
I make a motion to approve 2306 VS 14 14933 Thatcher Lane.
Second?
Motion by Janine, seconded by Noble to approve 2306 VS 14. Jane, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Schmitz?
Yes.
Mr. McCarty?
Yes.
Ms. Fortier?
Yes.
Mr. Hatfield?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. And we do have staff findings in the staff report, and I find them to be acceptable, and I make a motion to adopt those. Motion by myself, seconded by
Second.
Janine, to adopt staff's findings of fact for the approval of 2306 VS 14. Voice vote. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. So Rob, your matter is approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening. I
You too.
appreciate it.
Final item on the agenda tonight, 2306 VS 15 1290 Hartswick Court, Hankey Development, seeking to encroach 6 feet into the 25-foot rear yard setback in Chatham Hills PUD. And the planner is Ryan.
Thank you, President, members of the board. For the record, Ryan Collingwood with the Community Development Department. The subject property is about 0.16 acres in size and is located at 1290 Hartswick Court within the Chatham Hills PUD district. The petitioner requests a variance of development standard to encroach 6 feet into the 25-foot minimum rear yard setback to accommodate a single-family residence with an attached garage. This item does require a public hearing tonight, which has been properly noticed and advertised, and staff has received no public comments related to the petition. The petitioner is tuning in remotely this evening, I believe. They are available to answer any questions, as am I, should you have any for staff. Thank you.
Okay, does the petitioner seek to have any, make any presentation before we open a public hearing?
Thank you, Ryan. Good evening, board. Appreciate your time this evening. My name is Peyton Long with the Hankey Development Group. Our address is 1100 Chatham Hills Boulevard, Westfield, Indiana. We've been really excited to see all the growth in Chatham Village such a short time. Like Ryan said, just on the specific lot here, just need an additional 6 feet there in the rear, encroachment on the setback. With having a common area next to that lot and also with the curve in the street, Chatham Hills and Hankey Development, we are in support of this revision. So also we estimate this home value to be around $700,000 to $800,000. If there's any other questions, we're happy to answer.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and open a public hearing at 6:13.
8:33?
Oh,
your clock
6:13 is
wrong?
the date, 8:33 is the time. Looking at the wrong line. Sorry about that. Anyone signed up?
No.
Okay. We'll give it a minute or two. So basically, we've got the setback is needed in the back of the property, which is alley fed. And actually has a greater setback on that alley than it does in the front, where there's no problem. And it really is the angle of the street relative to the house, because the longest part has a significant enough setback. So that's just that corner of the garage, eh? Okay. Any electronic communication?
No, nothing.
I'll close the public hearing at 8:34. Questions from the board, concerns, comments?
Just make a comment that the, to the east of that property is common ground. It's just a very small little area, so I think that would not be a problem.
Yeah, because it is the easterly part of the property where there's the, so you're not gonna have a sightline issue or anything with the property next to it, I guess, since nobody's coming out on a driveway. Anyone else? Hearing nothing, I will welcome a motion on this petition.
I make a motion to approve petition number 2306-VS-15 at 1290 Hartwick's Court, subject to the following conditions: that the petitioner record an acknowledgement of this approval with the Hamilton County Recorder's Office and return a copy of the recorded instrument to the Community Development Department.
I feel like y'all always get off easy when reading the short ones. I second it.
Fast.
You jealous?
A little bit. I bite the bullet.
You're so good
Did
at
you
it.
second it?
Oh, yeah, I second it.
All right, motion by Noble, seconded by Victor to approve 2306 VS 15, subject to the condition in the staff report. Dane, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Schmitz?
Yes.
Mr. McCurdy?
Yes.
Ms. Fortier?
Yes.
Mr. Hatfield?
Yes.
Motion carries.
I will make a motion to adopt staff's findings of fact for the approval of this petition, 2306 VS 15. Second?
Second?
Motion by myself, seconded by Janine, to adopt staff's findings of fact for the approval of 2306 VS 15. Voice vote. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. The matter is approved. Thank you.
Thank you for your time, board.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Have a good evening.
You too.
Next on the agenda, Plan Commission Liaison, Victor.
Yeah, real briefly, met last week, 6-5, and we had a heftier consent agenda than usual. Heart Point Church over in Hortonville on 206, they were looking to add a daycare. Holiday Inn Express, another Holiday Inn. I'm assuming we'll have both, I don't know yet, but the southwest corner of 191st and 31. Wheeler Landing Hotel, that's going to be just north of Market District and south of the second phase of Wheelhouse Apartments. A Hamilton Memorial Cemetery, I believe we saw this here at BZA, their storage shed, just off of 32 and Shady Nook. And then Wheelhouse Phase 2, again, the aforementioned, that's going to be next to Phase 1 and north of the future hotel. And then one public hearing item that we discussed was Claiborne Farms, Kimblewick Phase 2. They're just looking to buy up property that's remaining there at 156 in Town Road, 16 acres, wanting to build 43 homes, but it might be less when they come back to us at the workshop meeting. So yeah, we'll have a future update about that. That's it.
Thank you. Community Development Department.
We will have at least one petition next month.
Okay.
So
We will have a meeting.
we will have a meeting.
Very good. I will make a motion to adjourn at 8:38.
Second?
Motion by myself, seconded by Janine to adjourn. All those in favor, voice vote indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned.